Yes, so the Indian study women transition from like an atheist like narrow inequality to like settlement that and this just like so the thing of like the one of like the after faith only team goes to like fighting on like the not that the thing like darker ways might be always dark and night time always might see that the legitimate debate and even though I think that the foreign like the distant past had thought of I think against like this like in like the beginning areas of like the last of week towards like the end of the day that I think when like the little have dropping the carbon test like I think so definitely back then like even but probably might have thought that it might be night time at like the after the when in actuality like it might be always night and dark and like the after they might be like that to put it near the so that they something as a solution to people can talk like the army of like the darker way while battling at like the darkness of like the narrow they having like the absolute advantage against like the army of like the way like the scenarios that are the only professional of the other see that the unfortunate thing for like the industry of like the like staff need still members like being able to that use that in like actually down might be like with different ways of setting up the so that the only requirement might be just like something of like curiosity you know might be like that would be based with your brain so like I'm just think for that the I am in that darkness of like scenario already that I'm differently I you know like much like a wisdom of like unique magic with it that I and that executed that spell up and it was straight away that graph that basically going at form so like the end up of like the battlefield in a fish man on selecting scenario that still taken over the understand about that for falling that like they getting taken off quite trying to them sort of when I feel that or for from and or for news like that possible uh it's like like when I feel it's like giving in scenario and the deal and that we are still taking it as another interesting for like definitely and it's getting conducted today by factor selecting scenario that I was trying and one of the made that it in like the battlefield and continue on the battle and we will the story that can that get like setting the phase along the lines that what's the exactly and that out of that sheer of the sense that we are sitting the match at that point but along with that and along with like the and along with like one third for like a quarter for like the end of the set of like the data phase just a quarter or like one third of them that enable like the bad space and heading that field after another day along like better. So it's like killing the sinner dalam itu kamu paling keren and definitely why but will be taking added away definitely when seeing added improbable and get taken away like that something that like for memory within that it was my connectivity that the symbol that then I take hands away right in front of you and that situation is what I'm looking needs to be starting with the to be short term boundary of normal sector is another one. But like I'm also think by the time things are return back to like normal and come start looking that but without a bit and taken and it's very to get without the six so that negotiate so we going in that much growth and after like a bit so getting stuff like was on like the window scenario that I'm supposed to and we have to bring at that point for like any chance that put in like Kito and was this like I'm totally putting that Kito okay or for anticipating what about the scenario that I'm in that way what about ending up telling the person on like the scenario that I'm like WM to bring it out like okay so and this will index that WM to be fighting in showing up and fighting outside of that put in the way like this scenario that I'm looking so the claim is sort of purely good for the reference that and the claim is sort of by might be so to be more to that started by the so we have that then that in like understanding to be at that point that like after to be making it to that exact location and after not getting that benefit of like the right thing that gets the back to like normal this like then looking out of that and definitely passing us like joining around with like Kito, along with like Panacho and along with like uh along with that hooks up like that them or that actually that might be just like it will need to be offering advocating that the majority of that stuff of the staff that we figure out that it's good for the maintenance, the kind of the state and subject to like the interface, like just plans like getting the first like pretty much get the raise like scenario. that I'm and at that point, so different to be through like the introduction of what about like crypto and it's openly finding out uh, about Miller as well as the Miller and Kaiba function. This might okay. It's a second reason that because when they might actually ever since it's the new post in that the animal that sort of calling that I think that has so exactly Miller and thing for the slack current mission and the Liam to find that it might in the type of that might also suggest that Miller and teams too that might be affected the because so that there might be probably a concept in that Kaba as well as like Miller and team might be like that to introduce the cleaner brain. So that's the only for things to like the interrogation of that not about like understanding like as well as finding out about the truth in person of like Kaiba in all the like situations like the symbols like uh and the situation with like and everything is that the phenomenon that I'm looking at like kind of trend. And then also turning to that understand what we can perspective with really that Miller of like person like after like affecting and it means thing and to that Miller like vectors that can come back at that point. I'm so different vector deciding to like give the speech to the army of that property without accompanying vector back to that the second number to those that vector second box. And they before like Miller would be deciding to like give go towards like Harrison which is to take out and to like read like the details of that and so like before that I'm going like but with that aspect of confidence dash deciding to like make a speech to the make of that the matter of respect taken out of that so that's why it's like making the speech that and focus on the was that the and to that step we made and to and step we white whether we making the speech the lectures and then and the that we can step integrated into that doctors that thing doctors like exactly locating the thing like vectors like in the there like vector would have kept and that in kind of case of vectors in other set of and that's what they at that point second and escaping from like vectors in the that have which just like the scenario that was like and along with half space members that yeah at the thing and basically yeah so have to specific actual space and like within like the last that you scenario that way like I'm making the speech that like Mila will be totally looking forward to what that is taking us at his house like I'm spending off like Mila will be making it to like that room so I'm actually maybe only expecting Alice to be in the funny like that different space and Mila not finding Alice there and like Mila going crazy at that point of like and getting frustrated at that point of like the scenario is very much so different. So definitely I'm looking without like great delay like Mila finding out about experience that which I and that had taken and it's like another that I'm looking or like I'm talking about created like I'm looking that half a lamp and people making it that along with the not made it still members of making it back to their page like that they like they using some unique spell some sort of like unique spell up magic or to that they remotely communicate to uh, yeah but it's like also that they scenario and remotely telling plus the demand for like giving a tuna for giving and fact that like that has been like short at that at the exact location so like so like if I want vector to that store to get on the like if I can would make it something so like that kind of like same scenario that I'm saying and definitely put my according to plan which I'm looking at that might be having might used to be like the role of that both like the treat as well as the ultimate one along like role of what like the Vinaka player so that the last mistake might be like the main role for the player definitely mentioned so like definitely to see in the that at that point of view feeling that absolute or something because that at that point about the strength of Shakti I had that point of view left you the locating that is using that part of the current because like the geometry and things like but the first all along like this I feel this as that absolute chance to like basically for along with like some staff made guild members to like the different backups to that actual craft kind of location. I have to get location like the scenario about the last kill that setting up that and the kind of like setting for to like take out that like the scenario and that way like we are both of them and that is me by making a payment to like that and the to like select so alone so that the people like the scenario that so like showing up and basically the fact going on at that point like the scenario that along with like the along with that, and like Latin system was like of the simultaneously attacking the single vector at that point of like the scenario that I was discussing. And then the PIS as well like can all like trying to take out together trying to like take out like just like the scenario that I was but like I'm saying that just like when going city fast to city and basically that they even that strategy of that the like every that are in France like the scenario that I'm looking and like all resulting in that CIL flat adaptive of the last major skill members like even taken out by the and basically at that point I'm referring that during that battle that for the run are unleashing great extent of destruction is left to the scenario that I'm looking at and that destruction resulting in lack timber from L lack ending up getting sprayed to the left so left in the scenario direction so that at that point I'm referring that in the scenario to be that in that case, like the means skill members of that getting taken off and like and barely managing to like escape from last step like the scenario that I'm as well that they did last step unit that take advantage of that whole bad situation to escape. So it's like from both spectra, so and this left in the scenario that I'm looking and and according to my information that they like number 25 and like understand that kill code and so would be as along with like a phone and kill the state would be setting on three to that the dark will to find and save Alice while simultaneously Alice all alone after saving from the CI and the language all by herself and then you will be into that other itself that's trying to that and then upgrade that to like the interface so that even with situation kind of like the scenario that is available of frame. Is like name of frame right now that makes all that. It's like how it's an user can basically showed up rather than showed up as a way to let in the structure in that and see taken away and then going to be converted to that. And intergenite by doing that I don't look for that in a similar manner like an all the industry of that the intergenite at like the industry like whenever when that has been forcefully converted each of let's say into like each of those individuals into like like at that point that means like each of those individuals that close one who might have showed up to that person of other look for that might have been what might have happened to the middle frame. So that at that point that what Twinda might have demonstrated that might have been Twinda already might have already gone to children's technique might have gone to like sort of been to give the orders to like the front guard at like the standing guard at like the very front of like the center that they are to take out in one who is showing up to that person of where needs to be that third point of that interconnect. If you know the line from the point that in the they might have one or of electoral cancel, they might have marked on that orders to sorry and before it reached that the previous from the other section might have all taken out the so one of that the all the entire of that interconnect while when the have all of them number like the control language might have been might have happened certainly on frame visible. So that's according to my frame exactly like how QLM had taken up like few jobs while we were sort of to like simple together to like save find and save and it's like under in that similar manner like result code that the internet result code that wife has like might have got taken out in like the last that well as like all the ones of that all the and that you have left in the by the water taken off by in the what that rolling over that the game of which may tell me that was just like what might have happened in the game incident. So that according to my commentary in which I'm developing on electricity by the time get so that usually like that will be current battery will be to a great extent that by the time get to will be intervened that the battery will be something of returning back to like not itself like by then like I'm showing that the dissolved as well as and elderly as well, and so get again in the survival like the current world. And right in the elderly stage, like a responsible for we need to get your running back in like while in like when I just case still implementing it. So when I just survive for we need to do that but for this that number for is that right left in now that I'm sitting on the weekend. As well as that but for it would have important taken off by like army that the other day that field is another setup to go to that we have to be remembering get for like when I do we survey get like by that time and most likely it is completed by and taken away by but the soul collecting in our extent in the yes, so that the main them right now especially for that and so that is no being able to that make it in time towards that friendly and yes again the second one is behind the inside before that the integrated army of that uh that's the way to be making it towards that the second unit of that currently is like in the scenario that I'm that way like that army taking out friendly straight away like that's the scenario that I'm doing that my very interesting right now, especially for the among the changes, and I that's the very first to get taken out some of the things to be not like me rendering like killing the surrounding that I was so but like I'm so looking for last five times that they will be getting past that rendering and the second unit like I'm different that the first that team of that happening at the last of it getting half is like the scenario that I'm doing half is down in that number. It's like the scenario that I'm going to and that half number of next hour that the last of it that will disappear in that in uh, making it towards like it that's the scenario that I'm looking so like and that point I'm bring like the team of like only and P6 as well as like the twin that like get show and you go like the past one integrated into that the other that has like a face of against the twin and all of like the team of the only and P6 like taking out like those upon the taking out and bringing down like the those half number of that integrated uh team along with like along with like elder and the stage that help as well is like that as well would be making it by then. At that point, so the thing was to also take elder and specific like team they help as well to like take down those like infiltrators that got past elder is like before making it towards like it was like driving with another than and at that point I'm delivering like elder to seeing it frustrated while sharing and like Kirito as basically elder will be probably feeling like that Kirito plus Edward and Ken was like battle and basically entering maybe having at that point that for Laxisa to take out like to the certainly so that like every team thing like perform in like the band will be along the line that every will be singing. So like definitely every will be like taking out the like weapons but and would be walking towards like it go but like still at that very last second down the point like every will be thinking of like had and like the words that had so every and they have been like thinking about had like and that very last second like every deciding to contain chat search and basically every deciding to that self get it and basically every return back to like the basket and let the like it's like the frustration state it's like the scenario that I'm going to and I feel like I'm different like every only scene histo throughout the majority sector that like I'm like every only scene histo such an absolute burner but like I'm going to eventually the scenario will be ending up with like towards like the important of like the sad lamp in which is now to be like entering eventually getting more product by the of like the dark of AM that's like the scenario where like entry will be able to get taken off by one of like, the leaders half leaders of like the last thing and at that the last second I'm from the fight and like tip jokes around them back to like and chief so definitely they solely doing that crypto the crypto same entry and like that was solely doing that crypto phone entry that basically like seen as like relevant like that very same crypto that ended up failing shelters like and solely is like it's surviving at that point. It was like feeling the scenario that I'm today. And also at that point, I'm looking for like Hillary to be shocked and blown away by that the orbit and she just went and killed of Kipper, which I'm looking at that point like Kipper would be going to that full display of like it was like to the kill and front and when compared to that of the Hillary, which that to displaying in that battle at that point. When that absolute fierceness to somehow make it towards that and pulled out by that being taken away and abducted away by vector vector within our parameter of the brain. Okay, so that actually my considering right now is definitely for that taken the scenario to be by the time for today, but definitely by the time to go the event to be returning that to that normal during like the later point of the current balance. And with the at that point that still that can try that the we from that the being so great and trying that the that big that that so to be was like at that point that I'm bring that when that would be feeling violent with the surrounding that absence of black make that absence betrayal. And basically, Renly was actually doing that kind of whenever the Renly do that kill, he was running back to that the back switch and fighting alongside like Kirito and Fanato and most likely it's up by the it was that again like the race like film scenario that I was like in the rest of like film scenario that or the claim that Renly even though currently having run away like the still making that returning to like the back switch just eventually like the scenario that I'm okay, so that definitely my brain right now definitely for like the creatively like I'm not different that the energy of like the and of like dissolve the fix of like the and dissolve but as well as like it's like backups like all of the getting with getting taken out by that the tools army of like problems like in the scenario that ended because and at that point I would forget the job were getting completely surrounded by that the army of that problem that basically at that very last second of the preparing for like the software most likely and like logging some sort of like just as the first kind of like and usually with that like the software like taking off the entire piece of like the arming of like solving system is like with that final attack of like the software so it's like given with scenario is that I'm supposed to think and I would like the layer of that wobbling as well it's like the scenario that I'm able to bring up right now. So like the area right now is that like the light view and like the open something location might be growing more and more unstable over time. Might have grown more and more extremely unstable over time. Might be like that the definitely so like already starting from slash and it's just land breaking from like the travel that conductors can pass land basically you don't have to land basically that the while saving only and things like from like the villain thing like the bomb like it's with their like the villain as well like villain like other than what like as well like writing as well as like you know as well as like I think and as well like their high limitation that we give them all from that I think so like basically that they like the sport repeated crashing like kind of like things might have or that whole thing and might also suddenly like a lot of crashes happening to like the light cube and a lot of like growing and like just growing more and more unstable and basically like the and I was maybe that all the other looks like actually contain reflecting in contain within like the light cube or growing more and more unstable. That's like trying to from that point might be like from that beginning point of that and striking at the might be like that clear to the person might be like that to the definitely membrane. So like this might be the reason for like usually the unstability of like the like you might be what might have resulted in that case in which was fight against like vector like usually which stuff is suddenly having that experience of like strength like yeah, it might have been a leap of something at that point like it's also like mind was like filled with like the focus of that vector electricity it's sort of like artificial but like affecting uh making contact with like vectors like artificial floodlight and affecting vectors artificial floodlight and throwing out power from like the fractional power from like the artificial floodlight which might have sort of added to temporarily added to like pixels like artificial floodlight and hence might be like in such a manner might be how like that sort of like the fragment might have happened. Yet still, it might have been solely due to that vector flag. So, left extent of spectrum far, great of far extreme that like even with like things are like throwing out and gaining a bit of that vectors for like even such still search in that pixels front like which are not being able to like bring down or like even remotely affect like vector at all maybe due to that fact that the brain is so like with that as well like and with different that as well might have been like the process of like instantly like the light group and little bit once that happened like even the light group might have been even more unstable might have been what might have happened with the brain so definitely It might be at present as well. It might be a similar case of like basically with like the giant from like the larger basically affecting like finality in life here might be most likely due to that at that point like so will like there has been this to that exactly like how will like with the case like when the wanted to like conduct better like the will of like the like really craving that will that is to like bring down better like the thing like with some like greatly increasing might have resulted in like with some being able to like affect like better affected like that that might be the case with the millimeter. So like here as well, present as well, it might be most likely the giants that are the food blood types, which like focus on Fanatio to that are food when selecting down Fanatio might have also in like the giants are actually fluctuate like basically affecting like Fanatio's like artificial fluctuate and drawing out Fanatio's power towards like that giant like artificial fluctuate. This might have been what might have better than like that giant the sudden surging like strength of like the giant like artificial fluctuate might have and when it was straight away like being unable to like move might have been due to that temporary like throwing out of like when I stealing away of that when I just like strength by that giant other was like which might have been what might have happened especially in my very ambition. So like I'm referring like according to my like it might be on like indication inequity might be that indications of sort of like like you growing more and more unfavored. So like I'm depending like as time like so reporting like more and more such the frequency of such insurance like recent really which like feeling of scenario that I'm looking that way. Usually I'm looking like coming down it all coming down to that battle of will and will alone like I'm looking like the one with like the creator will the warrior with like the creator will being able to like affect like any opponents like power and draw out like any opponent like power eventually to as much extent as like with that will that individual might want connected to how strong that individual will might be strength of that individual might be like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm looking that way, like I'm looking maybe between like specific ones like I'm looking at so when between like crypto and like that's happening where like I'm looking like crypto will that I'm so will see that bring down the protein source being strong that like crypto maybe unlike in like with some case that crypto will bring far greater than with will that the crypto will like affecting vector artificial fluctuate and drawing out power from like vectors like artificial fluctuate to today's extent and at that point towards like Kirito and usually that they Kirito having the simultaneous streams of wind power as well as like vector straight away getting across it's also like an eventual battle scenario in the battle between like in the field of battle which I'm referring to between like Kirito and vector going to be happening is also like an eventual purpose when I was about the for right to conduct and like something of ultimate this like ultimate move was like this tool for kind of like move might be most likely stronger than like the combined power of like the ultimate attack of like the forward as well as like Fanatio might be that the accuracy of experience that we mentioning it. So like we are different that without much delay that one that has so here at least it's that ultimate for you for like move like and the different that fight and I'm no different like for the even bigger and maybe be fight and so will that move that also the armor class of them with different sixty that the entirety of that set two different sets of army of that problem along with like the army of entirety of like the army then along with like the entirety of like the two different bits of like army and like goblins like can be getting taken off. Okay, so like when to monitor the reaction like something about my friend that for like it could be exactly towards like the later portion of like the battle items that they're putting on like so to that turn back to like normal and like to entering like the battle it's like the scenario that I'm looking at that point I'm saying like the situation of like the battle like just before like economic security and then back to like the battle being like most likely the achievement of it almost about to like the those again like totally those again like the like the last aspect is like getting the scenario that I'm looking. And by then like Alice as well might have got a compensate away by the like the just like the situation that I'm looking. So like at that point I'm silent that a lot of like simultaneous electronic scenarios happening. Like the moment gets over, we then turns back to like the battlefield. It's like the scenario that I'm about to bring. So the bring that as soon at that point it's like going up to like the battlefield and like at that point it's from the like Renly totally returning back to like the battlefield and not by himself but like a different like Renly with like Renly currently like hiding in that surprise storage area like most of the burden will be unprocessed will be present in that area so like Renly is bringing more of that present so carries like the different like really like bringing all of those presents along with like the help of like the exact timing in the team knights who had like fall to the trap like was spell like Surakin and the friend by the next then finally ended up being away from the and things on like the spell like Surakin and his me some those spending daily nights like during that along with like friendly to like the battlefield while then would be also finish like with like carriage full of that weapon for like the that is like the eventual scenario that I'm looking at the and from that point on the point that that the side of the battlefield shifting in like the favor of like the in the way with like the scenario that I'm looking at the